Luka Doncic is hurt. Bron James is hurt. Anthony Edwards is hurt. Darius Garland's hurt. Tyler Hero's hurt. It's a lot of all-star level players, superstar level players that are hurt, and Anthony Davis has just been added to that list. Fellas, I want to talk about this and what's going on right now in the sport.
Yo, you forgetting a lot of names, man.
Who else
But
am I
it,
forgetting, Pin?
Did you mention De'Aaron Fox?
I didn't.
Did you mention Damian Lillard?
I did not mention Damian Lillard.
Did you mention
Jason Tatum.
Jalen Green? Been out.
I didn't mention that Jalen Green.
Paul George.
Old.
The kid. Nikola Topic. Chet Holmgren out right now. Jalen Williams out right now. Right? Like Mitchell Robinson out right now. Like, it's tough, bro. Like, looking at the Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero is out right now. I'm just looking at this. Ty Jerome is out right now. That's the Memphis Grizzlies depth and bench that they just signed. He's out right now, right? Like Luka Doncic, LeBron, like these guys are all out. The Pacers are missing half their lineup, yo. They're missing their first string point guard, second string point guard, and third string point guard. Tyrese Halliburton is out, and they're missing their starting shooting guard, Ben Mathurin. Fred VanVleet is out. DFS is out. Like, what are we doing? It's like half the league is on the IR, bro.
What were you about to say, Damien?
No, but this is the interesting point where people dislike load management, but then they're the same people that also complain that there's too many injuries in the league when load management is actually intended to keep players on the floor, right? So we can't have it both ways sometimes, but I think it's just the nature of sports. I think a lot can happen at the same time for a lot of players. Like, I used to be a professional athlete. A lot of these injuries are just out of your control, especially the soft tissue one Swiper referred to. I think it's hard. I think there's good and bad in everything, though. And I think that for the All-Star game, for example, it will give guys like Austin Reeves, maybe Franz Wagner, if Orlando start to play better, the opportunity to make an All-Star game, because some of these guys are not going to be around. So I think there's good and bad in everything, but I just think that it's not necessarily a pandemic in the league. I think people also don't acknowledge that professional sports now, the physical output is as high as it's ever been. And even though we have all the recovery methods, all the advanced medicine, all the ability to theoretically keep people on the floor, the physical output is never really taken into consideration in some of these conversations. I was going to say, and guys are jumping higher than ever before. They're running more than ever before. They're sprinting more than ever before. They're covering more ground than ever before on the court as well. So I think that needs to be taken into consideration as well. But it's never great that all these.
But now we're also pressing more than we have in almost any time since the 90s. So we're upping the intensity defensively. Ron, approaching things with intellectual curiosity here, please. You know, guys are playing a lot more physical. Let's just be real.
I'll be back. I got to go turn it on. I'll be right back.
Yeah, good stuff. And I was going to complete the list, which is Kobe White. Kobe White is injured as well. Like, we don't talk about this. Darius Garland also injured. Not megastars, but, you know, all-star adjacent players who are fully capable of winning Eastern Conference Player of the Week, whatever. Brandon Miller is out, right? Jason Tatum, of course. And then Trae Young is apparently scheduled to go and undergo an MRI today to determine the severity of his injury. So it's a lot, man. It's a lot. We're putting these athletes through a lot. And, you know, it's weird to watch the game as I'm watching it and then to come online and hear somebody say, the league is soft. It's not soft. It's actually quite difficult to play in this league today.
Yeah, I just think it's wild right now. And regardless of what it is, you could say the league is soft. You could say it's more running and it's harder than ever before. Whatever the case may be, you could say load management. It's never good when we can watch the full product, or when we can't watch the full product, when we can't watch the superstars, when we can't watch teams at full strength battle against each other. It's tough. It's tough. And I don't know what to diagnose it. Go ahead, Damien.
And I think Chill's point that he always makes, which I think is great as well, is that a lot of the NBA is about survival. Like, which team can stay the healthiest, which team can try and weather some of these storms. The Lakers are a great example now with both Luka and LeBron out. Austin Reeves keeping them above water, like that. These are all the other storylines that are coming out of the league when guys are missing time. Like, can Indiana keep up in the East when their starting lineup's decimated? Can the Lakers stay in touch in the West when they got no ball handlers and all of a sudden two-way guys and Bronny James and all these guys are having to play minutes, like genuine NBA minutes? It's just crazy storylines that are coming out of the league because of it. So I don't think we should start celebrating maybe some of the other guys that are getting minutes as well and doing good work in those minutes as well. I think there's good and bad in that as well.
Shout outs to Jake LaRavia. I talked a lot of shit about Jake LaRavia in my life. I've called him a bum. Said he's terrible. Said he shouldn't be in the NBA. Said he was worse than dudes in my rec league. He put up numbers yesterday. So shout outs to Jake. He couldn't miss.
Yeah. Also shout out to guys like Josh Minot hooping in place of Jason Tatum.
Yes.
Shout out to I mentioned him yesterday. AJ Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, he was on that roster last year. He was hurt for majority of the year. Aaron Wiggins, too. We seen him. We knew he could ball, but he's stepping into bigger minutes. And there's a lot of other guys, too. Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, without De'Aaron Fox. It's a lot of guys. The list goes on of guys stepping in and playing very good in place of these star players. But at the same time, chill. We want to talk about the star players because these are the guys that are making the money. These are the guys that we're familiar with. These are the guys that have proven themselves, stamped themselves as all-stars, superstars, all NBA players, all the above. So it's just, it's tough. But Damian did highlight a good point that you do get to see new players that in any other scenario we probably wouldn't get a chance to see.
There's this world that people think that like they glorify the 90s and the 2000s and they look at hard fouls from Charles Oakley and they're just like, oh man, they don't allow anybody to do anything anymore. They're soft now. They call it watch any game in the NBA that does not involve like a really bullshit team. Just watch two decently competitive teams and watch the toll that a guard has to go through, a big has to go through. Go watch tonight if you're going to watch Miami versus San Antonio and look at the sheer number of steps that Victor Wembanyama is going to have to take in that game, or the physicality or the grind and how many screens Steph Castle has to walk through, and just look at the size and speed of the athletes. This is a zero-sum game, right? Basketball is a zero-sum game. At the end of the game, the team with more points wins the game every single time. I'm not saying anything insightful. So I got to beat you to the spot. You get faster, I got to move faster, right? I got to beat you to the rim. You get stronger, I have to get stronger. It's an arms race of athleticism, and quite frankly, we're approaching a breaking point here where the pace has picked up so much, the number of possessions we play, the amount of physicality we play, the amount of movement there is off ball. You don't just get to stand around and coast on defense anymore. When your guy doesn't have the ball, you're not just watching. No, you have to participate. You have to chase him. Like, do you understand how mentally fatiguing, mentally, emotionally exhausting it must be to have to guard Steph Curry on even 16 possessions? Like, he could take 0 shots in that whole game. You can't think of a player in the 90s that put that type of toll on you. You can only say, well, Shaq beat you up a lot. Yeah, but those are bruises. Those are bruises, right?
Reggie Miller 100% existed. Rip Hamilton existed. These guys were running around too. And
every team didn't have one, chill, and you didn't have to do it every single night for the whole possession. Because when Reggie Miller went to the bench, Reggie Miller Jr. didn't come off the bench. Okay? Like I see teams now with 4 or 5 movement shooters who are consistently scanning off-ball actions, coming off of double pin downs, and they're extending you further and further up. Like the geometry of the court has changed. Right? Like we used to play inside the 3-point line.
Okay, enough. All right, enough, Penn. See, this is bullshit. All right, I've had it. And let me tell you why I've
stayed
had
out of it for a good 3.5 minutes.
I tried to stay out of it as long as I possibly could. I don't know if you know this, Damien, but we have a hotel in the States. It's called the Four Seasons. One of the nicest places that you've ever seen. You get massages in this place. You didn't have stuff like this years ago. Like you had to fly commercial and you had to sit in the airport for hours. Like they actually charter planes and make these planes fit for big people. Not only do they make them fit for big people, they feed you on these planes. In terms of modern medicine, guys, we just saw Jason Tatum actually running around after tearing his Achilles. And Achilles in 1992, 1989 was a death sentence. So you're telling me that today that the modern athlete, one, is better, the treatment is better, the athlete is better, The game is better. The amenities are better. All of this stuff is all better. Meanwhile, we're getting less games from these guys. These guys are soft tissue injuries. They're not being able to play, and they're being more cautious about them. Why? It's because of the bread. That's really what this is about. Because I got a guy in Anthony Davis who's on the books for almost $70 million. And the last thing that I need for him to do is tear his Achilles or have a foot injury, because I already dealt him for Luka Doncic, which is already a problem. With this all being said, you can't tell me on the one end that the athlete is better, that all the amenities are better, that medicine is better, that all of this stuff is better. Meanwhile, I'm getting less games. I'm getting less production. Those two things don't add up with me. I apologize if I'm ranting, but that makes me nuts when I hear that. It does.
But you're also
less minutes per night too.
You're also comparing a lot of this chill to Malone, Stockton, Jordan, and there are players who played a significant amount of minutes and for 12, 13 years. Then obviously Malone, I think he played 18 with the Utah Jazz, and he missed 2 games at most over that stretch. And then I think John Stockton played 19, 20, and then played 82 in all those or whatever. But I think the issue with chill is that, like, we debated this last year. I don't think players are actually – it is more strategic now. And Ron, I sent you the graphic because I feel like that is the place to talk from this from. And you don't have to use the graphic, but – chill, the mileage alone that players are facing today changes the way that we're talking about what it is we're doing and the way that we're talking about just the sport in general. And in large part because Ron just sent it to you, I didn't realize I didn't put it in your didn't actually send it. A part of it is chill is that when you look at where they were, like in the graphic that was shared. And again, just going to credit like first things first for this because there's a stat head that it came out of. But when you look at in the 1980s, like the average miles covered per 82 games was less than 1,300 miles in the 1980s by players.
Yep.
Today in 2024 and 5, the average player is crossing over 1,500 miles in distance covered per year in 82 games. So if you put that into effect, the level of athletes, offenses are, and I think we can agree with this in totality. Offenses are much more advanced today than they used to be.
Yep.
I mean, that's just true.
More action.
It is.
No
way
doubt.
more action, way more
no doubt
movement.
about that. More
You're
sure.
guarding from the 3/4 line on the other side of the half court more than you used to because now you have to have a higher pickup point and at least at the half court line, because if you let Steph Curry and Damian Lillard and Trae Young cross half court and you don't have anybody in their face, they're going to burn you. Even if it's not a direct shot, as Damian and Penn and Mars and Ron know, like if you set an action, if I want to a double drag at the half court, then I'm going to have a wide open opportunity for playing versus drop coverage versus a big or versus whoever's on the end of that drag. So if you just look at the way the game is played, players are dealing with more space and faster, bigger, stronger athletes on norm. So again, you sometimes get stuck on this idea that, like, which is true, like Dominique Wilkins, Jordan, all these players, these were the preeminent athletes. But athletes as a whole are better in the league than they were then. Like, and I don't know again if that's really debatable either. Like, it's not like you didn't have really good athletes, but just for a 1 to 15 man roster, like it's just a different level of athleticism now. So I do think though, if you put the offense together, you put the way the players are having to move and how good teams are now, I just think that there's a lot more stress on the body. Personally, go ahead.
This was the graphic that Swiper shared. It is the average miles covered over 82 games. As you guys can see, right over here, this is 1,300. And up here, it's closer to 1,600. And that's now. This is 2020. This was back in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, yada, yada, yada. And this is kind of based on MJ's comments on load management, where he said it shouldn't be needed.
So to Swiper's point, Swiper, you brought up a really interesting point. You brought up a really interesting point about the amount of miles and how much better these guys are being maintained. Well, if you think about a car, well, today we got better mechanics. And the reason why we got better mechanics is because the product is different. Like the car is different. The engine is different. And it's the mechanic who maintains it better, as opposed to back then. Like, I'm trying to imagine the amount of minutes, the amount of time that Stockton played, the amount of time that Malone played, and I'm not even talking about just the superstars. I'm even talking about the lesser guys, the amount of minutes that Fat Lever played, the amount of minutes that guys like Rolando Blackman played. If they had the amenities that are going on today, like if I had a masseuse, if I had somebody to take care of my body, if I had a trainer, if I had a dietitian and people like that, because we didn't have anything like that available to us in order for us to play at a maximum level consistently. We did that wasn't available. That's so much more available today. James actually wrote the blueprint on how to last long. This is how you take care of your body. This is what you do in order to take care of your body. And I feel like a lot of these guys, the reason why they're playing that long, like DeMar DeRozan, like Steph Curry, like Steph Curry, like Kevin Durant, James, for an example, the reason why these guys are playing this long is because they're not only afforded these amenities, they're taking advantage of them. That's why they're hanging around as long as they're hanging around. We had guys running around like Steph Curry. Reggie Miller was doing that. Dale Ellis was doing that. Like guys were playing not at that level of Steph Curry in terms of production, in terms of threes, but the movement. And then when you're talking about offenses being more advanced, Swiper, I will agree with you that there are some sets that I watched and I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. But I vividly remember the Utah Jazz in the 1990s where they used to run a UCLA cut. It was one of the most advanced offenses that I've seen, where Jeff Hornacek would have the ball at the top of the key. Stockton is on the wing. While Stockton is on the wing, he would throw the ball. He would throw the ball on the wing. He would come off a UCLA cut. He would come off a UCLA cut from Malone. While doing that, Malone would immediately go set a screen on Stockton. Stockton is coming around that screen. While he's coming around that screen, Jeff Hornacek is coming around a double screen on the baseline, and he's getting wide open. And if that doesn't work, we immediately get into motion offense, right? So that kind of action was going on in 1996, 1995.
And it was going on a regular, chill. On the regular. Teams had early offense. Teams had an actual offense. And then, if all of that broke down, then you dump the ball into the post.
Well, we have all these final games that are available on YouTube. I know that Chill. I think Jordan's the best player ever, so I'm not an anti-90s person at all. But Chill,
sure.
I mean, and Ron, you're just being nasty. We watch these games like they're available. We've seen them. I'm saying that if you watch. I mean, respectfully, I'm not even trying to troll. If you watch the Washington Wizards today, and then you compare the amount of movement in their offense to what you were seeing in high leverage game in the 1990s, there is a difference. I'm not saying it's bad.
There's also just watched the Washington Wizards I watched them a couple of days ago against the Charlotte Hornets, and we just had a conversation about how much better they would be if they played in between. This is a team that takes a tremendous amount of bad shots. And why do they take a tremendous amount of bad shots? Because the ball doesn't move. They stay behind the long ball line because that's what the game is today. Now, as opposed to your point, these high-level teams back then, and I ain't even just talking about the 90s. I'm even talking about the 2000s. The triangle offense was innovative, right? And with the triangle offense being innovative, and it was way before its time. I think that we've seen teams. I think that we've seen teams have offenses that were complex that made defenses have a difficult time dealing with them. So now, with that being said, we have today where we got a lot of teams just shooting the long ball. I think that the reason why that's more difficult to guard because of the amount of space where guys are shooting the long ball. And we got a guy like Steph Curry who has now been the prototype of how to move off the basketball. I think people are trying to emulate that. They're not doing a very good job. But back to the point of this whole load management thing, I think that with the amount of amenities that we have for these guys, with the amount that's available to them, again, if you don't have a tear in a tendon or a broken bone, there shouldn't be an issue for you not being able to play. I think you can play with knick-knack injuries. I do. I think that because I don't know if you know this, Swiper, but Anthony Davis is on the books for almost $70 million next season. $70 million.
Well, remember, now, they have to manage that. They have to manage that player because they traded a 25-year-old for him, so they can't just play him whenever they want. So they got to be like, oh, we got to make sure he can last at least in the 3-year window that we traded him for. So.
It's the player choice way. Yeah, them boys don't get it started. The player choice way. You're the player choice way. Come and switch lanes into the player choice way.